Welcome back to BNI and the Power of One podcast. Thank you again for joining me this week. We are back with our growth series, episode 4. For those who may just be finding this podcast first, putting together a series around how to effectively grow your chapter with a little bit of urgency, a shorter time period, but significant results. So really looking at how do you double your chapter in the next month or so. And so doing each episode is building on each other, and it's really kind of two-faceted, one from the personal point of view, what do you need to be doing, and then from the chapter point of view as we get closer and closer to a visitor day, which I know for a lot of chapters, a lot of members has a negative connotation to it, like, oh, visitor day, we got to do all this inviting, we got to do all this work, and hopefully this series is showing you how you can really, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of work on an individual member for the group to have a very successful visitor day or open business day or potential member day. I've heard like 50 different variations of the name. Changing the name doesn't change anything. It might change like the perception for the current members. It has nothing to do with like the potential visitors, I believe. Because at the end of the day, it just comes down to inviting and strategic inviting. So real recap, in episode 1, we talked about why are you even in the room? What are you really trying to accomplish for yourself? And why adding certain professions to your chapter is strategically essential for you to ever achieve the goals you really have for yourself. That you need to increase the opportunity of referral production for yourself. And the only way you increase the opportunities is to increase the people in your network and being very strategic and selfish with that. But you have to have a deep understanding of why. And in number 2, we talked about, okay, who to target. What is that profession? And what are the steps to find the people to invite? Number 3, we talked about how to invite them effectively. So in episode 4, a little bit shorter, now you've done your inviting. And now it's about accountability with your accountability partner, okay? And then follow-up. So as we go into this week, as a chapter, we should be breaking out now into groups of 2 or 3, depending on the math in your chapter of our accountability partners. And each accountability partner needs to challenge the other one on, did you do the inviting? You made a list of 20 plus people from your profession. Did you invite them? How did it go? What was each response? So you can see how many no's did you receive? How many yeses did you receive? How many no's gave you somebody else to call, etc. And go through each result with each other and challenge each other. Because there are going to be people who didn't do it, who just didn't do it. And that's the reality of the situation for every chapter around the world. I would bet that no chapter has 100% participation at the end of the day because of what we talked about in episode 1. And a lot of people are going to say they want the results. A lot of people, everybody's going to say that they want more people helping them. Everybody's going to say they want more referrals. But not everybody's willing to do what it takes to make that part happen. So the accountability partners will meet, discuss that, challenge each other. If your fellow partner didn't do the inviting, you got to challenge them that it's not too late. It's not too late to now pick up the phone and do it this week. Okay? It's not too late to invite and put in that time and put in the effort. Challenge them, ask questions again of, why are we here? Why are you here? Why is getting more referrals, making more money important to you? What is it helping you do? And when they tell you it's so I can retire, it's so I can do this, it's so I can do that, then you need to challenge them that this exercise is a step in the right direction. This is the step to making that happen. And that you care whether they do it or not, because we talked about in episode 1 that most people don't care whether you do it or not. So you go through that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to exchange all the yeses. So give your accountability partner the list and phone numbers of everybody who said yes, they plan on attending in the next week or 2 out from your event. As an accountability partner, now your job is to go and call each one of the yeses to do a very simple follow-up. This can very much be done as a voicemail, and most likely will be done as a voicemail, because I think, like a lot of us, we see an unknown number, we kind of let it go to voicemail to figure out who it is. But that's fine. It can be a voicemail. You do not have to get a hold of them in person like you do with the invite. And the follow-up is very simple. Hey, Joe Smith, Tim told me you're coming to our meeting next week. Really excited about meeting you. That's it. That's the follow-up. hey, so-and-so told me that you're coming to our meeting. I'm really excited about meeting you. And even if they pick up the phone, they say, hey, Joe, my name's Tim. I'm a friend with Dave. Dave told me that you are planning on coming to our meeting next week, and I'm super excited about the opportunity to meet you. Just wanted to let you know. If you got any questions, let me know. That kind of real quick conversation. This is really essential because what this does is increases the number of people who said yes, they want to come to the meeting to actually show up to the meeting. Because sometimes people will say yes and they get excited, but then the day of the meeting comes around and they're like they're not really feeling it. This is networking in general. We've talked about this in the podcast in the past, right? That it's like I used to do with oh yeah, I'm going to go to the gym or I'm going to do this today. And then, 5:00 rolls around and I'm tired and I don't want to, or there's a million excuses. And so I come up with some kind of mental excuse of why I'm not doing it today. Networking is very much the same. People do that all the time. Chamber after hour meetings, they put it on the calendar. I'm going to go to that. That's going to be great. And then the day comes and it's like, oh man, I'm tired. I'm stressed out. This person upset me, whatever. There's a million reasons why we don't go. And same in BNI, it's going to be the night before. They'll start thinking this way, do I really want to go? Or the morning of and the alarm goes off a little bit earlier than it normally does. Whatever that is, they'll make up an excuse. And if you know them at all, even if you don't, it's easy for them, if the only person that they think is expecting is the person who invited them, very easy for them to not show up and either, if they know them, come up with an excuse, hey, listen, sorry, I couldn't make it, something happened with the kid, I'll plan on coming in the future. Or if you didn't know them, it was a yes you got from cold calling, well, they just never reach back out to you. But the more we put on, it's not an impression, the more we show them that other people are also expecting them to be there, so they get the impression that multiple people are expecting them to be there, the more excitement they're going to have, and the less likely they are to accept those excuses or implement the excuses, right? They still may not want to go, but now there's 2 or 3 people expecting me, I'm going to go. So it just increases the rate of showing up. So if we get 7, 8 yeses, I told you 4 or 5 are going to show up. The only way you're really going to get 4 or 5 or 6 of them to show up is with the follow-up. If you don't do the follow-up, again, depending on how well you knew the people you invited, which if you're inviting 20 painters, the odds of that you know them well is minimal, you might get 2 to show up, 3 to show up, right? So we want 4, 5, 6 of them, because that then increases the number of people who are going to take the step to apply, which then increases the opportunity for us to be selective and guaranteeing us that we get the profession filled that I need. So very simple step, very easy exercise, but you have to be accountable to doing it. Again, your fellow member, your accountability partner put in this time and effort to invite all these people. They've got 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever yeses. You need to call them to help ensure more of those yeses show up for them. This is the giver's game part, and they're going to do the same for you, and that's the exercise. Follow-up is essential. Again, it's not about selling BNI. It's not even mentioning BNI. It's not about going down a rabbit hole of what to expect. It's just a very simple, Tim told me you're coming to the meeting, really excited about meeting you. That's the accountability piece that the accountability partner is responsible for. It's not just to have somebody say, did you invite? They have a role in your effectiveness in filling your seat. And you do the same for them. If you haven't invited yet, you have to do that now. As a chapter, you should be tracking whoever is coordinating the actual visitor event at this meeting should go around the room and ask, how many yeses did you get this week? And calculate that up and, have a list of every member and write the number down. 6, 7, 5, 0, 3, 4, 5, 0, right? All the way through. And you don't react either way. You don't go, oh my God, that's amazing at every number. And you don't boo them when they say 0, but you highlight in your tracker that it's 0. And you remind them that anybody who's at 0, it's not too late. We're going to ask you next week how many yeses you have. So please continue to invite or start your inviting. And then you do it again next week, and you're going to start to understand and see very clearly who's participating, who's not, and then your chapter is going to have to make decisions on what they're going to do about that later on in a couple weeks after the event. Remind everybody, this comes down to simple but not easy. Simple exercises, couple hours of worth of work over, a few weeks period of time, but that will never happen without clear intention and purpose and action and making it happen, meaning scheduling the time to find the people, to do the invites, to do the follow-ups and everything else. Intentions don't matter. I've had some people recently ask me about visitor days too, and like, what about the letters? Should we send out letters? Can we do emails? Can we do it through the app and everything else? You can do all of those things. The letter campaigns that are in historic visitor day manuals and stuff is really about accountability. What that was, all right, we got to hold everybody accountable to something. So the activity was, we're all going to send 40 invites, and you would collect them at the meeting and you would mail them out, and that's how you would see the accountability. And that did hold people accountable at least to sending 40 letters out, but it's still not that effective. It's not as effective as it could be, because what happens? Well, we mail out the letters and that's it. The letter or the email or whatever was really nothing more than a door opening for the phone call. That's what makes the invite really happen. So you can send a letter, you can send an email, but really it's meant to be like, so that the phone call starts with, hey, Jim, did you get my email? Hey, Susan, did you get my letter? And there was never really accountability built in the chapter to see if people did that part. So the number of letters that needed to go out kept going up and up and up and up and up and up, because the ratio of number of visitors we would get would go down. So to get 20 visitors in the room, you need to send 1,000 invites. When if you're really 20 members, I don't think you need to do that. Just each person needs to commit to having 20 phone calls. But that's the difference. The phone calls are significantly more impactful than any letter or any email or any passive approach to inviting. Those are very passive approaches to inviting. Tim, do you got any postcards? You got anything, the mailers we can mail? You got any marketing material? And the reason, like, we have some of that stuff, but the reason why I don't really do a lot of it is because it's really ineffective. Pick up the phone and do the call. Listen to episode 3. And if you haven't done it yet in this part of your journey, you got to do that part now, and the chapter needs to help push you to do so. All right, next week we will start getting into planning the visitor day, how to run an effective visitor day. We're not going to go through, just as a heads up, the agenda of a visitor day, but we're going to talk about what are the details, what are the things that really impact the effectiveness of a visitor day. Again, no matter what you call it, that will help increase your conversion ratio of all these visitors then applying. Because again, the goal is invite 20, 8 to 10 yeses, 4 to 5 to show up, 2 to 3 applicants from each profession. Chapter 20 now goes to 40. If every member does their part. So how do we get the 2 to 3 applications? What goes into it? What role does every member play? What are the details? Those kind of things. That's what we're going to get into as we continue on. Hopefully you're finding this helpful and beneficial as we start getting into our 2023 member extravaganza time of year, which we're super excited about. And I know across the country, there's a lot of different things happening. So hopefully these are adding value. Let me know if they are. Leave us a review. Apple Podcasts specifically, we're about 5 away from hitting 200, which I'm super excited about. And again, if you ever have a question, comment, topic of any kind, go to bnipowerof1.com, leave it there, and we will absolutely get to it. I hope you guys have an amazing week.